for this whole week, we at Tobago Updates are focusing both the morning show and GMT on International Women's Day, which is on March 8th, a little later on this week. But the whole week, we are going to be focusing on women. And we know that women can be in literally every sphere or every sector of our society. And one of those sectors is the farming community. And I mean, just to talk a little bit about, just what our women here in Tobago has been accomplishing when it comes to farming and that sort of thing. I am being joined by the Secretary of Natural Resources, of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, Ms. Nathisha Charles-Pantin. Good morning and welcome to you.
Good morning, Kandace. Good morning, Tobago.
And of course, happy Women's Day
same
in advance.
To you. Same to you.
All right. So just, give us an idea of how big is the female farming community in Tobago?
Okay, so let me first say that we have several stakeholders under the division. Mm-hmm. So we have, and I have to be very careful when, I'm giving the terminology. So we have fisher folk, which would be inclusive of women, right? We have farmers, and the majority of women will fall under agro-processing. Yeah. We have a few landowners who would engage in forestry as well and forestry-related activities. So we have many stakeholders under the division that we wish to embrace. Mm-hmm. And you'll find that the majority of women, as I said before, fall under agro-processing. But we want to recognize all the women across all, as you said earlier, spheres, right? And, focus on women empowerment, women and girls, yeah, for International Women's Day.
Right. Mm-hmm. And, when we think about, the women, when it comes to the way how we work hard, no matter what, we face many, many challenges and so on. What's been your interaction with them in trying to improve and put a bit more food security where that is concerned, and just get them more involved?
Well, over the years, I have interacted with many women, across the sector. And being in the division for 18 years, you have no choice. You have to embrace all the stakeholders at some point in time. And this year, we decided to commemorate International Women's Day with a launch, first of all, to launch a program that we're going to have under the division. Mm-hmm. We're going to focus on enhancing food security. We're going to focus on women empowerment. And of course, we're going to roll out programs to, further their business. Because the theme, since I got into office, I would have said that agriculture is a science and a business.
Yes.
And I'm going to hold fast to that so that we ensure that we develop this sector. So that is what we're going to focus on. We're going to start it with a launch, and then we're going to roll out several programs under the newly formed Tobago Agriculture Research Institute, where we can train and provide funding assistance to entrepreneurs.
Okay. Mm-hmm. When it comes to, just even women being in agro-processing and farming and so on, is there anything unique about their involvement?
Agriculture on a whole is unique. Now, when you think agriculture and you think science, it's towards improving food safety. You think about quality assurance and all these things. You think, everything along the value chain. You have to be precise. As I keep saying, you cannot fake it in agriculture. And last week, Friday, we launched the initiative with a food scientist in the division, Melissa Abeko.
Yes.
And she spoke about her history, being with her mom, looking at how her mom would have added value to, simple fruits. And that is what inspired her as a woman to get into food sciences, yeah? So we are going to continue displaying different, officers under the division who continue to develop the sector, assist us in many ways, so that the people of Tobago understand what we're trying to do in the division. Yeah. Now, agriculture is usually seen as punishment over the years. You know, you can't study a book, so go outside and see if you could plant something. But that isn't so. It's a proper science. Yeah, I've heard people said, okay, let's take, for example, cassava, simple as cassava. Sometimes you'll buy cassava MX variety, and some people will tell you, okay, I boiled the cassava and it hard. But if you know MX, if you know the science of MX, as soon as you dip it in boiling water, it gets soft. So you have to understand that agriculture is a science first. And then once you improve on quality and all of that, then you're able to turn it into a business. Because you, as the producer or as the businessman, you have to ensure that you sell something of quality. Yeah. So it isn't as straightforward as we think. Agriculture isn't that straightforward. And that is why we're trying our very best to target each and every stakeholder to bring them up to, compliance. Yes, let's use compliance. Yeah. And that would take some funding, and we're committed to doing that. Yeah.
And does this also include the fishing community? Because we know that there's actually quite a lot of our women that are involved in fishing, whether it's actually going out on the boats themselves or selling them.
Oh, definitely. We have a lot of women involved in fishing as well as creating value-added products. And with our launch coming on March 8th, we're going to have someone from the Inter-American Institute for cooperation and agriculture, and she will, her background is in food science and quality assurance, right? Dr. Lisa Hananan, right? She would be the featured speaker, and of course her background is, networking for grant funding and all of that. Now, I wish my division had all the money in the world to fund this, because I mean, we can't rely only on tourism, yeah? So we must think about food. As a matter of fact, across the entire region, you're seeing that now people are focusing on food security, yeah? So, and I mean, that's one of these sustainable development goals. Sustainable development goals are number 2 and 5. We're focusing on food security. You're focusing on women empowerment, gender equality, inclusion, So we're looking at the rural communities across Tobago, embracing all the stakeholders. Once you're a stakeholder under the division, you will be embraced. And of course, we're going to roll out different programs to train you to become an entrepreneur and, of course, improve the quality of lives here in Tobago.
And where agriculture is concerned, how far are we along in achieving that sustainable development goal of, having that gender equality and so on?
Well, this initiative is first of its kind, right? Of the 18 years I've been in the division. So I can tell you we have started, and that's a good thing, because, we can't sit by and just wait on the sector, to develop themselves. People need to understand the direction that the division is heading. And I think that once we hold their hands and we engage the correct stakeholders, in the sector, then we can work together, towards improvement. Agriculture is not a one-off thing where I just come and give you a grant and that's it, right? What it is about forming partnerships. We have to network. We have to ensure that we sell Tobago in the best way that we can. Yeah, so that is what we're trying to do with this new initiative. We call it Women in Agriculture and Natural Resources. Yeah.
And how can women access this?
Okay, so we have been looking at, well, when we did an assessment of the entire division and the number of women that we have, it was so many that, we are thinking if we had to have a launch, it would be millions of dollars, yeah? And then when you think about all the stakeholders, so what we did, we tried to identify key persons across the sector, even within the division. And we sent out invitations so that we bring everybody into the space for the launch. And then after that, you'll see several initiatives rolling out, yeah? So that it can reach to all, all the stakeholders within the communities. Yeah?
So it's basically an incremental thing.
Correct. It is an incremental thing.
And is there any sort of qualifications? Is it open to everyone?
This initiative is open to every woman and every young girl. not only people in the sector, but people that are aspiring to get into the sector. Yes, so it's open to everyone.
All right. And then, so the launch you said is on the 8th.
Yes, on the 8th at the Magdalena Grand Hotel, right? I wish that I could invite the entire, right? But we are limited by, we can constrain my funds. But once we bring everybody that are truly interested onto the project, then we can, because we have deliverables. We want to ensure that when we get people signed on, that we're going to measure progress along the way. So we're not going to just think about it as you get a grant. And as a matter of fact, we would have met with the stakeholders on the agro-processing, right? When I said we, myself and stakeholders, we would have, sat down some of the technical officers to develop different, funding opportunities. And of course, I'm still waiting on certain things from the technical officers, right? Because it's a conversation, as I said. We don't have all the funding under the division, as everyone would know, right? But whatever we get, we try to work with it along with international funding. So that's the idea.
And how much funding are we talking about for this?
Well, I envision that, it's $1 million sector, yeah? Right? We're talking about not only funding personal grants to individuals, but also we have to, there's a Louis d'Or processing facility that once operated in this space, in the sector, that was shut down. So we have to bring that up so that agro-processors can access there. And there's several other spaces that we have to, refurbish, let's put it like that, in order to accommodate stakeholders. For example, the Barbados Bay Fish Facility, recently you saw that it was launched, yeah? And it was converted into a space that the fishermen, they like the frontline vending, yeah? So we had to reconfigure that entire building to fit their needs. And that's the idea. We have to work with the stakeholders so that we don't build buildings and then they sit there, forever and not being utilized. Yes, so we are really working hard, and I want to applaud the efforts of every technical officer that have signed on to the agenda, of the competent and the willing. The Chief Secretary made an excellent call at the beginning, and of course we had a lot of people within the division, outside, volunteers, and we have all come together to sign on that project. Because I'll tell you something, I've been in politics outside of this type of politics. I've been in the other
background.
Right, in the background with other, right, for years. And I'll tell you something, I actually gave up on Tobago at one point in time in terms of politics. And I said that, I wonder if we're getting anywhere with politics. And, strange enough, no, I'm a politician. So I don't know if it is God just making, God is saying to you, look, you have this sort of expectation. So now you're a politician, get to work, So that is what we have been doing. Yeah, working. Yeah.
All right. And so now for those people that are joining part of that program, how much in grants can they access?
All right. So the ministry has a $100,000 grant, right? And all the farmers, fisher folk, anyone basically under the division can access the grant. But I think the issue with this particular grant, why Tobagonians have not been receiving it, is capacity. So
wait, I know that there are two things. So is this the one that's going to be launched on the 8th?
Actually, it's not this grant in particular that will be launched. There are several grants in this space under the ministry, international grants, ADB, there are different types of funding streams that can be accessed. And and that's what I said. I'm so happy that, God turned my view, upside down, because now I'm a politician. And it requires, a lot of work. So we had to do a lot of background research as to all the funding opportunities, not only nationally, but internationally. And we're going to bring that.
From the IDB standpoint, just to give us an idea of, you know, what that funding is going to be like, and we'll talk about the ministry and so on in a little bit.
IDB, or I mean ADB?
ADB, sorry.
Oh, ADB, well, you know, ADB usually would facilitate farmers and fisher folk. As a matter of fact, ADB would say that the fisher folk tend to access funding for the businesses more than farmers, yeah? But but that would not be grant funding. That's more loan funding, right? But there are grant funding opportunities under the Ministry of Trade. You have this $100,000 grant under the Ministry of Agriculture, right? Different incentives. The division, I remember the chief, you know, he made an attempt to lobby for the allocation to come to Tobago, so that the grants could be assessed in Tobago and given to the farmers. But the allocation remains in Trinidad, and therefore we could assist with capacity here, so that we train people on how to access, you know, make up the forms and how to comply with the rules. And the grant actually comes from Trinidad. So they send their technical officers to do the assessment, and then you get the grant. So we want to, you know, I would hope that, you know, we get the allocation, but we don't get it. So what we have to do is access the funding that is available in this space as well as internationally.
All right, great. I'm going to just have a pause right there, but viewers, when we come back, we'll be continuing this conversation, so don't go anywhere.
Thanks a favor to wake up and hear me neighbor. 60,000 people strong, and the vibes is never.
Secretary of Food Security, Natural Resources, the Environment and Sustainable Development, as we talk about women in agriculture and so on. And of course, one of the things that a lot of people in, not just women, but in the farming industry, complain about or struggle with is the access to funding. And there is some funding, there's actually quite a lot of funding available. And one in particular is through the Ministry of Agriculture. And to access that, the first step is through registering and letting the ministry know that you are an existing farmer. So, Mr. Nathisha Charles-Pantin, you know, give us an idea of this registry process that's going on through the ministry, and then we could talk about what doors that could open up for a lot of people here in Tobago, not just women, but farmers, agro-processors, fishermen in general.
Okay, so this $100,000 grant, it could be accessed by any stakeholder under the division. But the challenge is a lot of persons don't fill out the form correctly. So they leave some parts of the form unanswered. And of course, it requires you to just say in a brief way what type of business you want to do or you're involved in, yeah? So if you want to buy a tractor, if you're into commercial farming, you should aim to always have things readily, you know, at your fingertips. So if you want a tractor, for example, you need equipment, you need any sort of thing that would enhance your business, whether you're a farmer, an agro-processor, a fisher, part of the fisher folk community, you can access this grant, this $100,000 grant. So that would be part of the initiative that we're rolling out, building capacity on how to fill out some of these forms so that you can qualify to receive a grant, yeah? So the forms goes to Trinidad actually, and they are the ones that would decide whether or not you get it, right? But I would love that we get the allocation in Tobago, but we don't. So we would provide the assistance in filling out the form. If you're currently a farmer, of course, there are rebates. And there's a youth in agriculture program where you must show some evidence of training, right? And a lot of the projects that we are doing under the division, because we have a livestock farming project, you will be certified. You will receive a certificate. So every project we're aiming to do, every training, we're aiming to provide you with something to show that you would have done something along that line, yeah? So we're trying to improve the circumstances of all the stakeholders. So at the launch, what you're going to see a lot of international people on board on a part of the assignment. You're going to see the people locally from Trinidad and Tobago that work within the ministries and the divisions, and they will be in one space for the launch.
Nice.
And then you'll have a display of some of what the agro-processors do at the launch, so that, you know, our international partners or international stakeholders or national stakeholders, they would have an opportunity to see what Tobagonians can do. Yeah, and then we work with them as we roll out different training sessions where we can have people certified and qualified in different things. So you don't have to come with any qualifications. We will work with you to bring you into you know, becoming the best entrepreneur within your field. And that is what we should be aiming for, becoming the best in whatever you can do. So if you're into preservatives, you will be the best person, right? So I don't want you to see your craft as something aligned with poverty or as a punishment. Your craft could go beyond the shores of Tobago. And I could tell you, as I tell people all the time, my breakfast is something local. I buy local food by the food hub. I live my life. I shower. I use natural soaps. Mira I could call your name, Nikki, Ostra Trotman. I purchase everything local because I want to live the life and not just tell people, support other people, and I'm not doing it myself. And I totally enjoy it. As a matter of fact, my staff now know that Miss Pantin, when her birthday comes, she's in love with soaps and creams. So that locally made. So I want to continue that part of supporting our local industries. Once you fall within agriculture or natural resources, we will provide that support through this initiative. And the focus is on women and girls, of course, for International Women's Day for the launch. But of course, we continue to work with all the stakeholders across the sector, as you have been seeing over the past 2 years.
And I also I'm happy about him even mentioning just the technocrats from the ministry are going to be here. And, you know, tell me about that relationship. And is there some kind of intervention being made so that we can ensure that more Tobago people can access the grants?
Well, the division continues to work with our national partners. As a matter of fact, we have an amicable relationship where we partner on many things. For example, pests and diseases. You know, every single thing we partner with under the division, so that we build capacity of our stakeholders. Yeah, and of course, we build the capacity of our technical team as well, so that we don't always have to rely on you know, international help or national help. Yeah, and that's the idea. When they come here, we train persons so that they get the skills locally. Yeah. But what I want to also focus on, and this is something very dear to my heart. Now, what I find in this space, I mean, in growing up, we need more female mentors, not females who could tell you that you can't make it in life, or you can't, you know, you know the kind of twang, you will make nothing of yourself. We need more mentors. Melissa spoke about looking at her mom in the kitchen preparing meals for her and her family. And, you know, you would hear in the space that some women, they would have mentored the younger women into the field. So we are products of our environment. It's obvious. And if you don't have a good environment and nurturing environment, then obviously what you would get is a breakdown in society. And what is learned behavior, you will transfer that. So we want to empower women to show them that, you know, and all of this is part of customer service as well, because customer service training would be part of the initiative. So that the first thing that you encounter is somebody pleasant and warming, and it translates into your craft. I don't know about anyone else, right? But for me, whenever I'm in a good mood, everything is perfect. So I tend to do everything that I do when I'm in a good mood, craft-wise. And I would call out Councillor Sertica. Oh, she has a green thumb. And very often when she gives me some of her produce, I smile, because when I prepare, my husband and we prepare cauliflower and different things, and we say, she made this with love. You know, she grew this with love. Everyone know that whatever you have inside you, it will be reflected in what you produce. Yes. So we need to start nurturing each other and mentoring each other, so that, you know, the younger version of me, I was like, you know, I'm giving up because I'm not seeing, you know, I'm not feeling that type of encouragement. So I want to change the perception, you know, of the culture. We need to improve on the way we relate to each other, the customer service, and of course, we need to put more passion into our craft. And we are here to support you as the division.
And, that's an interesting point because when we talk about Women's Day, we always talk about women empowerment and so on, but we don't often deal with the fact that we as women also are our own undoing.
Yes, definitely. A lot of times we don't fix each other's crown, as we like to say it. Yeah, but we need to fix each other's crown. We have us in a society, I mean, politics is politics. I like to say it's a game of politics. Who could bring down the next person? And I don't like to do it. As a matter of fact, you wouldn't find me online doing it at all, right? But we have that type of mentality where we have to bring down each other in order for somebody else to achieve success. And that is the most ridiculous concept that I've ever witnessed. Because we're in this little Tobago, all of us connected in some way, right? I mean, my hair curly, you never know, Kandace, me and you might be related somewhere along the line, because when they pull out, it's straight. But I just say it, we might be connected in some way.
Yes.
And if we continue along that line, we would not have a developed Tobago. We would have people suffering from depression continuously. So we have to start to mentor each other, right? It's not always about destroying each other and for political expedience or whatever. Sometimes you look at the value where it is and try to embrace it, try to improve people. And that is the focus of politics, improving people. It's a humanitarian thing.
And of course, and out of that, there are a lot of different sectors, and you're responsible for the agriculture. And by helping improve what we eat, can even help improve our health, can help improve our minds, and it spreads.
Yes, and Dr. Faith, Dr. Faith might be able to come and speak about, those non-communicable diseases that people often suffer from. And maybe we should start looking at the connection in terms of the foods that we eat.
Yes.
Yeah, a lot of us, sometimes we have to look at, our pressure and our sugar. Some of us have to test every morning because of the type of foods we eat. And I'll tell you, I know relatives, after they changed their diet and they incorporated more, the home gardening unit, for example, why I applaud their efforts is because once you engage in home gardening, you know exactly what you're putting into your food. Yeah? And we have nearly 1,000 home gardeners signed on the program. And if you follow online, you see them every day, whether it's in a school, whether it's in a backyard of people in the community. They are teaching people how to garden scientifically. So it's not always about a business, but there's a difference. If you want to get into home gardening, the division will support you. The doctor might have told you have to ease up on salt and sugar and different things. So you may be able to have a hydroponic system set up in the back of your yard. So you wake up every morning and you pick your own produce. Yeah? But if you're into commercial farming, you need to have the assistance through grant funding. So we have separated what you want to do based on the service that we offer as a division. Yeah? So you could do your own thing for your own pleasure, but also we will provide that support should you want to go into commercial farming. And you have to be decisive in what you want to do. Because if you're going to rely forever on tractor pool, that is not a correct model for commercial farming, because you need to have your own tractor. And that is why we're saying you need to access the funding that is available.
Yes, certainly. And how would all of these things even resound to us being able to access, as a population, access food at lower prices? Because that continues to be a challenge. So even though we encourage more of the home gardening initiative, we also have a lifestyle that is not like before. Not everybody could dedicate the same level of time and effort to it, or even have the space to do it. And that continues to be a challenge. But then the prices of people being able to access food are sometimes out of budget for a lot of people. Right.
So let me speak to not having the space. And that is why the home gardening unit will show you that you have the space. And, we have to engage in modern agricultural farming, where you have the hydroponic system just set up. It could be right in your gallery. yeah, that you can grow all types of leafy vegetables, yeah. So we can do that. Even banana, you can have it potted, yeah. So we can, show you how to access fresh produce in your backyard. So I understand in terms of pricing. Now I'll tell you something. We have to look at, and it's economics, eh? Now we live in a free market society,
Yes.
right? Where demand and supply determine price, right? So what the division has to do, or the ministry has to do, they have to look at ways to subsidize, right, the industry, right? I'm saying they, but I'm involved in it. Sorry, right? Sometimes I still feel like a technical officer, but so we look at ways how to subsidize farming and the other types of craft, yeah. So that once you reduce the cost of your inputs, then the price could be reasonable. But of course, we have to train the farmers on how to price, yeah, based on that. So all of that would be part of the training. Yeah, so that you don't have to now price things this way because you now have a reduction in costs as it relates to the inputs. But also you have to consider things like scarcity, for
Yes.
example, weather conditions, that could impact scarcity, of course. Demand, if the demand is high for a particular produce, the price goes up. So you have to look at the different factors and see if you could address that. But we operate in a free market economy. So it's not like if prices in the grocery go up, that the chief secretary could say, okay, let's carry down the price. It doesn't work like that, right? But from the division end, we could try to support the sector.
Certainly. All right. So we're unfortunately getting ready to wrap up this conversation
Yes.
this morning. But before you leave, I just want you to give the information as to how people, and especially women in particular, since this week we are focusing on women, but of course not just women, and if they want to access some of these grants and these assistance, where can they go to find all this information?
So we will be launching on March 8th. But with that launch, you're going to see a lot of information on Facebook. We're going to use those mobile units that we have been using to sensitize people as to the different programs and the dates that you can attend. Of course, in the launch, you have key stakeholders. They're going to be present. And we're going to have that roundtable discussion on how we go forward together to improve the sector. And of course, when you walk away from this launch, you will have the information as to the different types of initiatives, training programs, all the opportunities for funding, both internationally, nationally, and locally. And of course, you will be networking with the best of the best, right? Both in internationally and of course nationally. Yes, so you will be fully equipped with what you need to become a business person or to just develop the field for yourself. Yeah. So I think it's a grand opportunity. It's the first of its kind, having women together in one space, sharing our experiences as women. Even, women carry with them a lot of emotions as well in their stories. So we want to hear those stories. They're important to us to show, how you would have transitioned from just being, a person doing your craft to an entrepreneur. Yeah, and with that, I would think that I would have contributed as a politician to the development of Tobago.
Certainly. And we're definitely looking forward for that. So viewers, there you have it. Just some information, especially for those of you in the farming community. There is actually quite a lot of assistance available, and we're going to see it announced in full on Friday.
Right. Oh, and Kandace, can I say that my technical officers, we as the division, we sent them to train on how to write for grant funding.
That's very important.
Yes, so we continue to improve our technical officers as well to provide good services.
All right, great. So I want to thank you so much, Ms. Nathisha Charles-Pantin, and viewers, please don't go anywhere because we have a lot coming up for you after the break.
60,000 people strong.